Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Sweet Spot. This is your host, Ryan Embry. This is our first episode in 2024, recording in 2023, but really excited nonetheless. I've got a great guest with me I'm going to introduce in a second, but this is a part of our Hospitality Trailblazers series. And if this is the first time you're doing this, we've done this over a year now. We are talking about the future of our industry and those individuals, hotel management companies that are really driving our industry forward. And no better guest than I have Charles Oswald, President and CEO of Aperture Hotels. Charles, this is your first time to the Sweet Spot. Welcome in.
Hi, it's good to see you. Thank you.
We're excited to be here, Charles. We're going to cover a lot, past, present, and future today. But let's start in the past. You know, this is a new guest. You're the first of the year. We work in this industry where this is people come from all walks of life and how we get into hospitality. We're going to talk about one of those tracks with hospitality schools a little bit later. But tell us a little bit about your background, Charles, and the journey that led you to Aperture Hotels.
Oh gosh, it's been a long story for sure, but I began in hospitality when I was in high school. I was a cook in freestanding restaurants, and I did that on through college. I then moved into convention services at Hyatt, and that began my food and beverage career at some award-winning Hyatt hotels. They transferred me from Tampa then to Dallas, where we grew with a lot of responsibilities, and that was in the early '90s to mid '90s. And then I went on to become an assistant general manager and general manager of some award-winning full-service Holiday Inns, Marriott, some Hilton properties through the late '90s and early aughts, before ultimately becoming a vice president of operations with an up-and-coming, sophisticated private equity firm, Noble Investment Group. And I would say really learned a lot there about the PE side, the investment side, proper asset management, and so on. And that's really what groomed me for my next role. When Noble Investment Group sold their management company into Interstate Hotels and Resorts. At that time, the predecessor to Aimbridge that we know today. It was the largest hotel management company. That was an opportunity through that transition to step out and become a partner and CEO in my own company with HP Hotels. So I ran HP Hotels for 8 years through 2019. Grew that portfolio to just shy of 50 properties. Then I transitioned into an investor role through the pandemic period. Planned to invest in hotels, but we know how hotels were doing through the pandemic, so I had to pivot. Stepped into some other industries, including managing investments through for some retail office development, had a charter yacht business and several other interesting deals associated with commercial real estate. But then last year, I was like, I just want to get back to my passion. I want to get back to hotels. This is really what I love. Um, and so that's when I joined then Banyan Tree Management, which was a captive management company to Banyan Investment Group, which we then relaunched as Aperture Hotels to take on third-party management company management assignments here. And we just relaunched in March of this year, 2023. So it's been a fast and furious ride, but really operations at my roots from the beginning, and developing from cook to CEO.
Yeah, that is certainly fast and furious, but it's always interesting to hear these stories. There's always that theme of adaptability, versatility, changing roles from departments to different states. But they're always seeing, I never get tired of hearing these stories, Charles, because there's always either, one mentor or, one group, like as you were speaking about, that really has like a really big impact on what shapes you for where you are in your career. And I think that's so important, especially for our younger hotel listeners and audience to hear in this, is to really look out for those mentors along the way of your journey, because it really is a journey in our industry. We have the privilege of working in hospitality where our skills are very transferable. You can go from one state to state or country to country, brand to brand. Obviously, some differences there, but a lot of similarities as well. So I love hearing your story. I do want to fast forward to today, though. Here we are at the end of 2023. We're recording. We've launched in 2024, but this is always a great time to kind of take a moment to reflect on the end of the year. At least I like doing it. Different year for you, starting a company, right? So looking
Yeah.
back
Yeah.
on 2023, some of your biggest accomplishments, other than, and how has it exceeded your expectations or met your expectations going in when around this time last year?
Yeah. First I have to say, we began this journey in 2023, of course, in 2022. So when I joined the the company late first quarter of 2022, the idea was to upgrade what was essentially a family style management company into more of an institutional grade third party management company that could deal with sophisticated private equity firms and REITs and so on. So this meant taking a lot of time to thoughtfully upgrade the tech stack, our systems, our processes, our risk management program, our insurance programs, and invest more into training, development, and really upgrading our strong players to our or adding strong players into our corporate leadership team. So with that being done, as we stepped into 2023, we have a really strong team built. And so this was the time now to relaunch that company as Aperture Hotels under that new profile with targeting third-party management. So we began the year, as we entered the year, we had a dozen properties that were owned by the original affiliate there, formerly Banyan Investment Group, now Satori Collective. And so we then relaunched as Aperture Hotels at the Hunter Hotel Investment Conference in 2023. And since that time, we've actually added 10 third-party contracts into our portfolio.
Wow.
So we're averaging just over one a month. Now that's a really strong start for essentially new company that has never really marketed itself as third party before, to add that kind of, have that sort of steady growth record, through its first year. So we're really excited about how quickly that's ramped up. That's exceeded our expectations. And that's pure third party outside of any investment affiliate or anything like that. I couldn't be more proud of our team and how quickly we've been able to adapt.
Well, fast and furious, just like the story you said of your hospitality journey there, certainly indeed. Now, as we prepare for the new year, I know with some of the properties that you've already had, this could be the first new year you're going into some of these other properties. How do you prepare
Mm-hmm.
going into a new year from the corporate side, and then maybe move into the more property level side for our hotel listeners that might be kind of prepping for that what's typically our slower season in the
Well,
winter?
I'd say first that our corporate team is built to support the property team, right? So our goals, our objectives, our priorities are really one and the same. So for us, having a really clear set of priorities is important. Making sure that we shape all the things that we do in our business around those clear set of priorities is important in a very strong culture. So from a priority standpoint, it's always staying focused on on revenue enhancement, with the primary measure being, market share changes, right? Then our customer experience, our profit management, and our team member engagement. So with those four things establishes our priority. We're looking ahead into 2024, and what are we doing? Well, I think we're cognizant that there's still, labor pressures, inflationary pressures, brand standards creeping back into full force as we roll into 2024. And that means that we have to be really diligent about executing the fundamentals, and making sure that our key priorities are always top of mind. We're dialing in right now into productivity-based labor controls, making sure that we're not leaving any money on the table. We're not getting fat and happy here with our business, or lazy as we roll through the holidays. But really keeping profit margins in mind for the investors that for whom we manage. We're very focused on distribution strategies, and then at the same time, as we step into 2024, we look at the beginning of the year. We want to make sure that we're effectively training, developing, measuring, and managing everything that we do. So we do that primarily through our balanced scorecard, which it measures all the key elements of our key priorities, and then through our incentive programs, right? So you got to like I think most solid companies, you got to prepare, anticipate, engage, evaluate, and reward, and we're following that stream as we step into 2024.
Yeah, it's certainly a great time to do it. We've had a bunch of episodes kind of talking about this being the year to really take a step back, analyze what worked in the year before, make adjustments. You're talking about productivity and even staffing efficiencies, because this might be somewhat of a slower time for your staff. And then all of a sudden you're going to get stress tested here come spring break, and we'll already be in the summer. So the more work you can do kind of right now, grinding with your team, making sure that every little nook and cranny is kind of taken care of, from everything from the operation side, even to the digital marketing side of things, which, we love to talk about on this podcast. That's going to serve you during those busier times. And certainly you'll reap the rewards come the summer and busy season.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I love this time of year also, because this is the time where everyone likes to throw out their trends, their predictions. OTAs, brands, publications are always trying to guess what's next, right? And some years we've been a little bit better than others, right? You mentioned 2020. I don't think a lot of people.
I think we were supposed to be in recession right now, right? And
exactly.
it didn't happen, did it? No. Yeah.
Exactly. So, I want to get your prediction on one thing, because I have been hearing a lot about kind of this return of the business traveler, which,
Sure.
we've started to see it a little bit more pick up, but, really leaning into it into 2024. What's your prediction? And are you guys maybe targeting or marketing to business travel differently than you did previously?
Well, yeah, right. So I think when we talk about business travel and how we do that, we think about the art and the science, right? And scientifically, I think most of us historically would look at office utilization trends and air traffic trends as key indicators that we would track when we're conversing about the business traveler and when they come back, right? So looking at 2024 and where we stand right now today, air traffic it's recovered above 2019 levels, right? But a lot of that was leisure lift as well, not just really business lift. So on the flip side of that, counterbalance to it, office utilization is hovering below 50% of 2019 levels, right? So below 50%. Now lease rates might be indexed at about 96% of 2019, but the utilization is low. So what does that do? I mean, it certainly puts some pressure on hotels. We've seen a lower index recovery in urban markets and suburban corporate office markets. But I will say this about that trend. We have to be careful when we're discussing national trends, because every market has its own unique thumbprint, right? For example, Miami, Phoenix, and Austin office lease rates and utilization are largely recovered in excess of 2019. But when we look at San Francisco, San Jose, Philadelphia, way behind, right? So we can't just apply the average to every, it's like the weather. Every single day is anything but average. It's a little rainier here. It's that day is sunnier there on that day. Is
great comparison.
Yeah. But what we are seeing when it comes to individual traveler is there is a shift that's occurring right now. Many Fortune 100 companies are calling their employees back to the office. I think in mid 2023, we saw the likes of companies like Oracle, Dell, Capital One, Google, Citigroup, AT&T. They're calling people back in the mid part of the year, late spring and through the summer, to get back to 3 day a week patterns. Now, it's not 5 days a week, it's 3 days a week. Can be a little hard on hotels, but we'll talk about that in a second, a little bit more. And then the last trimester of 2023, we saw Goldman Sachs, we saw Apple, BlackRock, Meta, Cigna, Comcast, and FedEx. And other more companies calling people back to the office for everywhere from 2 to 5 day patterns. And in 2024, there's a little bit more. Like I saw recently that USAA, for example, is calling people back to the office in Q1. So companies are beginning to realize, and I don't know why it took so long to realize this, but realizing that productivity fell back during this whole remote hybrid work period in COVID. As a matter of fact, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, I was looking at their numbers. Productivity as a country, we fell back 1.9% during the last 2 years. And that is the largest decline on record. I mean, that's shocking. Now, keep that in mind. We've progressed 2% per year for well over a century. And for us to go back in a period where we have all this added technology and communication skills in systems, and I mean, like what we're using here, right? Video conferencing. Yeah. For us to go backwards when we're supposed to be more productive, working from home and not sitting in, it says something about the importance of the work environment. So companies realizing that. And I think as labor conditions gradually, say normalize, but also it's a little bit of a new normal. I think we're seeing more small corporate group meetings are occurring. Some transient and extended stay is bouncing back, but it's slow build. It's not there's no hockey stick here, right? One of the things that companies are having to deal with is some of their workers relocated during the pandemic. And so when you relocated, now what do you do with them? Well, I think that's going to convert into what we call super commuters. And some people who have to come back and stay at a hotel, maybe for 2 nights for their 3 days in the office, 2 or 3 nights, right? To work with the new company mandates. So yeah, there is some recovery, but don't look for the hockey stick. Look for just gradual, small recoveries as companies try to balance their budgets against inflationary pressures and rising wages, but versus the need for improved productivity and people actually being in the office.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there, Charles. And it's interesting because both of us found ourselves at the hospitality show, at the inaugural hospitality show in Las Vegas this year. And one of the things we or at least I thought when I was there was just how much it felt different when we were physically there. And I think that is going to happen with people coming back to the office or even traveling for business. And especially for, maybe a younger generation that wants to get out and have experiences, they might be the ones raising their hands saying, oh, I've got to travel for business. I'll go ahead and do that. I've been cooped up in here. And now that the company's making me come back into the office, I am having a little bit more face-to-face interaction. I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable. And now they want to do some more jet setting. I mean, who doesn't like a good business trip, right?
Right.
Especially when you're younger, you don't have families or anything like that. But it's interesting to see those trends because that's obviously targeting a different type of traveler as well. And maybe having those shoulder nights attached to that business trip saying, hey, I'm going to go ahead and extend this business trip into, a little bit of a leisure vacation. So super, super interesting. I'm curious to kind of see where it heads in 2024. But as we predicted before, sometimes these trends and predictions don't always go the way that we want them to. So
yeah.
But I want to switch to staffing. You brought it up before. We had Chip Rogers on a couple episodes ago.
He's great.
He noticed some sentiment about, staffing finally starting to feel like the tide is changing a little bit, which is a welcome change because it has just been such a headwind and a challenge for our industry. Any creative things that you're putting in place? I've heard some really, really creative ideas out there for Aperture Hotels to retain and recruit talent.
Yeah, first, just kind of piggyback on what you said about the hospitality show, which is put on by AHLA, and
Yeah.
Chip Rogers, of course, CEO. Fantastic job that he's doing there. And so as CEO of Aperture Hotels, I sit on the AHLA management company committee as well, where they have a lot of the stronger management companies in the industry are represented there. And there were some highlights from a recent study that we did in the management company, that I'll share with you. About turnover and the labor market conditions as a whole. Um, we're able to get some numbers through like hotel effectiveness, which is the largest labor software in the industry, as well. Some payroll records, and looking at what turnover rates are we're challenged by, and what wage increases have been, and just some quick things to think about is it turned out that there is a 35% increase in general manager turnover versus 2019. Still rising versus 22, by the way, up 300 bips from 2022. So that's a hardest to fill role where you need talented people, and there was actually still climbing turnover. And so we have to counter that as a company, and we'll talk about that in a second. And then there's the high turnover. What's the highest turnover role? Well, I was just sitting there talking to you about 35% increase to 35% turnover of the general manager role annually. But at the housekeeping, room attendant role, would you believe that 34% of all room attendants turnover in the first 30 days?
Oh, wow.
Just think about that. So if you're a small hotel with 10, or a bigger hotel with 20 room attendants, that you can count on 3 of your employees not making it to the 30-day anniversary if you're average in the industry. That is just remarkable. But I think it expresses the challenge we have of dealing with with turnover and the current labor conditions, and so how do we navigate the challenge? I think there's probably 3 things I'd put out there. Right, first, you got to have a flexibility. Think about 4-hour shifts for some people that whether they have maybe they have 2 jobs, they have to deal with kids coming home from school, or think about 4 10-hour shifts. Think about shifts at irregular times. I walked into one of my hotels. I was actually about to leave to go catch a flight, and as I was leaving that hotel, it was 4 o'clock, and they were doing a pre-shift with 3 housekeepers that were coming in the afternoon. I was like, I said, how did this come to be? And they said, well, we're being flexible, right? We don't always need every room. It's not always 100% sell out. And so we can clean in the afternoon into the early evening, give people extra hours, or like, and she pointed out, said, this girl over here has this young woman has a full-time job during the day. She gets off at 3 o'clock, comes over here. She mentioned another person picks up the kids from school, drops them off at the daycare, and they come over and work a short shift, and so on. So I think being flexible with some of those times. In some cases, we've allowed a little remote hybrid work, actually, with sales managers, and that's worked out okay for us. And then we have the ability for employees to use an app to select available shifts. So there's a workplace app that they see what shifts are open there. The manager puts open shifts, schedules people, and then whatever the open shifts, other people can pick them up. And I think using technology to allow people, enable them to work the shift they really want to, I think can be helpful. So flexibility, adaptability. We can use contract labor to fill in some holes, though evidence suggests that contract labor doesn't always embrace the same brand culture and drive the customer experience or deliver the same productivity and consistency of our own long-term employees. So you got to be careful not to become reliant on it, but that can give you a hedge, at least to help during maybe some of those markets where you have higher peaks and valleys, right? And then I'd say third, is culture and engagement. We got to think about skills and career development. We have to think about employee well-being. Um, so those three things: flexibility, adaptability, culture engagement, and skills, career development. All this, it is really important for companies to think about as they navigate the challenge today.
As I interview more and more industry leaders, Charles, I love to hear and even Chip, really embracing technology in our industry, which typically is slow to kind of get to there, right? Like we're sometimes we're still filling out the dry cleaning cards and putting them on the outside of our doors, So to hear that
Hmm.
we've had to make this, and it's kind of had to be kind of an adapt or die situation where we've had to adapt this technology, but I think it's going to serve our industry so well into the future because this is what the modern workforce wants, is open to. They know how to communicate. I love the idea of an app and being able to kind of pick shifts. And obviously we're a 365 24/7, so there's only so much flexibility that we can lend there. But finding these places of efficiencies, I think, is going to go a long way. Really, really cool to hear you embracing that over there, you and your team embracing that over there. And one of the things you guys do a fantastic job of, doing research for this episode. I love your website. I love everything
Thank you.
about it. I love the vibe of the website. As a digital marketing podcast, really admired it. One of the coolest features, if you haven't been over to aperturehotels.com, check it out because they've got a built-in LinkedIn feed on their site. And I think that is brilliant. I mean, as someone that preaches the hotels all the time about the importance of using LinkedIn as an occupancy driver for groups and corporate travel, and you speak a little bit about why that was a priority to kind of embrace LinkedIn on your website and what that means to you.
Yeah. Well, I guess first, it was brighter minds, marketing minds than mine that suggested that. So I think what I presented as the challenge is just pointing out that I think corporate websites become really stale. People work really hard at first to build it, and we did as we were trying to establish our initial identity as Aperture Hotels earlier this year. And golly, it's a lot of work and a lot of time to pick and choose every word and number you're going to put up there. But then most people, I think initially they go into it and they put up a couple of maybe a newsletter here or there, and then they just kind of forget about it, right? And
Yeah.
so an endless number of corporate websites to me look stale. It's they've got some news and updates the first 2 or 3 months, and then nothing. Right, for years,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was looking at one of our competitors. I think the last update I saw on there was like 2015, and I thought, geez, it's okay. We don't want to be like that. So LinkedIn is frankly, it's the it's the best social media tool, I think, for business. It's easy to post on the go, and I think I'm just probably more likely to put something up on LinkedIn. We did engage a party to help us manage that and make it more of a tidy graphic presentation and to encourage us to post more frequently. And so linking that over to the website just seemed like a natural solution to solve the stale issue. And make sure that we were really posting, and by having it seamless, that's part of what we teach. Taking that industrial engineering mindset to our business. How can I, put something in one place, do it one time, and maybe then broadcast it to more audiences, have more
Yeah.
people see it, and it doesn't require an extra step or maneuver, but automation, right? So I think that was an efficiency that we really liked. That helps keep our customers up to date on what's happening with our company.
Well, it's so smart because it speaks to, obviously, if we have any members of our audience, who work at a management company level, it's fantastic because that's where you want to push, potential owners to is your website. But even going down to the property level, right? What we're trying to do is create channels and highways to our website, and social media is such a clever way to get people to your website. So that's why I think it was such a unique idea that I hadn't thought about before. And you're right, there's always that PR and news feed on a management company website that sometimes might be a little bit hard to fill, but you're always updating your LinkedIn, right? So, and that pushes kind of traffic both ways. So someone finds you via your LinkedIn, they're going to make it to your website, and vice versa, and all of a sudden you become kind of a part of they're living in your feed. Just excellent work. So as you could tell, I'm very excited about it. But
Thank you.
so as I want to keep this episode civil. We talked about this off screen, how we're kind of rivals in a sense. It's no
Uh-huh.
Michigan or Ohio State, but I attended the UCF Rosen College of Hospitality. You attended the University of South Florida in Tampa. I've seen that we were talking, off mic about how some of the tremendous work you're doing. So, we won't compare records or anything, Charles, but let's talk a little bit about just the importance of these hospitality tracks, because we just talked about
Well,
staffing and getting people into
yeah,
our industry. So
yeah, yeah. Well, listen, I think Dr. Dean Sheehan would probably do it disappointed if I didn't poke at you a little bit and mention something like, U.S. ranking as the first best value among all the public universities in Florida, or being, first nationally for, or in the state for social mobility, or being part of the AAU, part of the American Association of Universities, which is or the best of the best. I think you'd be upset if I didn't mention a few of those things. So I'm not saying anything bad about UCF. UCF is great; they're
yeah,
great,
yeah,
and I have had some great employees over the years from the school. So, uh, but anyways, yeah. Listen, it's been fun being a part of this journey as this school has risen 72 spots in their national rankings here over the course of the last 10 years. So really excited to see that progress. But why are we there? What is this all about? Look, we got to help people. Hospitality is a legitimate career. You can go from housekeeper to general manager. You can go from blue collar to white collar. I went from being a cook in the kitchen to being a CEO. And if I can do it, anybody can do it. I mean, I'm just saying, like, there is a career progression that can happen. And what other industry can claim that, right?
right.
We're talking, it's amazing what the potential can be tapped in people. And, a lot of times, people's future um, well, we'll just say that their education is highly predictive of their future life circumstance, right? And there's a lot of people in hospitality that maybe didn't get a formal education, but through our industry, they can learn on the job. Education isn't always necessarily a certificate, a degree, something hanging on your wall there, but it can be that on the job learning. It can be career progression. It can be cross training among different departments. When we talked about my past earlier, the fact that I was able the opportunity to refine food and beverage skills with Hyatt hotels, and then when I was with Weingarten and Hammonds, I think we really focused on the operational fundamentals, and I learned a lot of my rooms and labor management. As I got into with Noble Investment Group, I learned about the deal and what makes that work and what private equity expectations are, and you learn all these different areas, right? And you eventually begin to apply it. So I'm really excited about the work that we got to be able to do over there and help develop young people. For me, I've had an opportunity to be a part of the curriculum development there as well here. As we continue to refine that, it's the fastest growing school at the university, which already has over 50,000 students. This is a big important distinction for a mature university to have this fastest growing school. But we need people to realize what the potential is out there. This is a great industry.
Yeah.
It can be a good time. It can be hard work. But what a great career progression opportunity it presents.
Yeah, that's why I love sharing these stories, Charles, because, I think, years ago it was I fell into hospitality, and now we're hearing a lot more people say, I went to school for hospitality, and it's sharing stories like yours, Charles, like some of the other leaders. I started as a bellman at a property, and kind of moved around in operations before here at Travel Media Group, but and that still has a reach into our industry. There are just so many pathways, like you said, and we get to be a part of something of experiences, which very few industries can claim that they do. So hearing more stories, more hospitality tracks, more rivalries, in-state rivalries, like we're talking about today, that those are going to be the things that really drive more people and help with this staffing headwind that hopefully, like I said, is hopefully at least getting a little bit better right now. So let's talk about shift your perspective. I guess we'll call it shift gears to shift your perspective. I see it all over the website. It's featured in the header of your LinkedIn profile. I always find it fascinating to see how companies land on a mantra, slogan, a motto like this. Tell us a little bit about shift your perspective, how you landed on that, and what that means to hotel listeners.
Yeah. So an aperture, right? The term refers to it's a camera lens. Think about that on your digital camera or the old school cameras.
Yep.
But that's the light or the lens through which light travels and the focus really occurs, right? And I think that says a little bit about us. I think our goal, our mantra, we want to shine light on the opportunity, unlock the hidden business opportunity that may exist, and then focus on the priorities and focus on results and turnaround and how we can do better. To the end of the day, we have to deliver, the highest return on invested capital for our owners that we manage for. So our name, I think, conveys a little bit about how we, blend some art and science in our industry. From a science standpoint, we use our dynamic tech stack and proprietary solutions and advanced statistical methods, right, to shine the light and uncover the hidden business potential and focus our attention on the right thing. And then from an art standpoint, right, back to we're talking about pictures and aperture. It's deploying a team of experienced executives to go and go execute those priorities and implement and deliver the art of hospitality, right? And so imagine a picture perfect stay. That's what we want to deliver to our guests.
Love that. Yeah, I mean, I love the parallels there, and you're right. It is an art and a science, our industry, and yeah, shift your perspective. That's a fantastic mantra. So we're gonna shift our focus to the future now, and as we enter 2024, what's your vision for Aperture Hotels? This being, technically what this would be your second full year, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, any goals and objectives for either next year or the coming years?
Yeah, I'll say this. So when I started last year, really established four, um, four, four objectives that we really want to achieve here, and it's around national recognition, being a best in class operator, a go-to operator, and and then leadership, right? So I think when we talk about nationally recognized, we want to rank among the top 25 largest operators in less than 3 years. Managing 40 plus hotels and third party would get us there. But we've seen a lot of consolidation at the top. We're not necessarily
Yep.
interested in having thousands of hotels, but we think that we can build on this foundation we've laid, and that there are some efficiencies and subject matter expertise that we can bring to the table there, as we get into the 40, 50, 60 hotels in the near future. We want to be a best in class operator. And I mean, for us, that means, strong operational framework that earns Aperture Hotels, all the key brand approvals that we need, allows us to work our way up the chain scale to manage higher quality assets, more complex assets. So we measure that best in class operations by where we stand with the brands, as well as our balanced scorecard approach and the returns that we can help deliver to our investors. Three, I talk about being a go-to operator. I'm talking about leveraging relationships that we have in our industry from the past and forging new company relationships that would help us, investor relations that helps us to become the operator of choice for a short list of select clients that are actively placing investment capital and need third-party management services. And fourth, I'd say it's about leadership. So we want to elevate Aperture Hotels to be viewed as a trusted advisor and a thought leader in the industry as it relates to innovation, strategy, and operational execution. So that's something we've been working on, and I think as we were talking about LinkedIn earlier, you'll notice that we might put in key takeaways from a brand conference might be there. You'll see articles, whether it's from me, our SVP of Commercial Strategy, or SVP of Human Resources, and speaking at different parties. You see that through sprinkled out through LinkedIn and up there also on our website. And that sort of leadership is what I think the industry needs more of. People who are making reacting to some of the, see what's coming, reacting to some of the things we didn't see coming, and kind of weighing in, taking a proactive approach to the business where others don't.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, we've talked about this before, just providing, when we're talking about hotel management companies, providing value to your owners in those capacities, right? Whether it be blogs, insights, data. You gave some tremendous data today on the Bureau of Labor Statistics. I think fascinating when it comes to business travel and what that means. But yeah, more thought leaders in this arena, kind of talking about the trends, what we're seeing. But also being very cerebral with your strategy, knowing your market, and because it doesn't just apply to everything like we talked about, Charles. So, you certainly got the game plan. You're off to a fast start. You were off to a fast start in 2023. Wish you nothing but success in 2024. Want to thank you for joining me on the Sweet Spot. Any final thoughts on today's episode?
Oh gosh, I love what you're doing, Ryan. Keep up the good work. It's been a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Charles. And thank you to all of our hotel listeners. Wishing you a happy new year. We are going to come to you all 2024. New guests, new series. Stay tuned. Thank you so much for Charles for joining me today. And we will talk to you next time on The Sweet Spot.